My brother threw boiling soup on me when I refused to sign over my $3 million house to him. So I called the police and his probation got revoked, sending him back to prison for 10 years. Welcome back, family. Don't forget to hit subscribe, say hello in the comments and share where you're tuning in from. With that said, let's jump right into the story. The scar on my left shoulder still throbs when it rains. I trace it sometimes, remembering the moment my brother Lester became a stranger. That Tuesday evening I was stirring chicken noodle soup in my kitchen, the one with marble countertops I'd saved 10 years to afford. The doorbell rang 3 times, urgent and aggressive. Through the peephole I saw Lester, his face twisted with that expression I'd learned to fear growing up. Desperation mixed with entitlement. "Cassidy, open up. I know you're in there." His voice carried that edge, the one Mama always excused as passion. I opened the door because that's what you do for family, even when every instinct screams otherwise. He pushed past me, smelling of cigarettes and cheap cologne. "We need to talk about the house." My stomach dropped. "Not this again. Lester, I told you last week you said you'd think about it." His eyes darted around my living room, cataloging everything he thought he deserved. "I've thought about it. The answer is no." That's when I saw it. The calculation in his eyes, the way his jaw clenched. He walked toward my stove where the pot of soup bubbled. "You always were selfish, Cassidy. Got everything while I got nothing." His hand hovered over the pot handle. "That's not true and you know it." But even as I said it, my heart hammered against my ribs. Something felt different this time. Dangerous. Lester grabbed the pot handle and I watched in slow motion as he turned toward me. "Maybe you need to understand how serious I am." The soup arced through the air, a golden wave of scalding liquid. I raised my arm instinctively and fire exploded across my shoulder and chest. The scream that ripped from my throat didn't sound human. I collapsed, my skin bubbling, the smell of burning flesh mixing with chicken broth. Through the agony I heard Lester drop the pot. "Oh shit. Cassidy, I didn't mean." But he did mean it. I saw it in his eyes before he did it, that moment of decision when he chose violence over my safety. My phone was across the room. I crawled toward it, every movement sending fresh waves of torture through my body. "Don't you dare call anyone," Lester warned, his voice shifting from panic to threat. "This was an accident. You'll tell them it was an accident." My fingers closed around my phone. My vision blurred with tears, but I could still see the numbers clearly. 9. "Cassidy, I'm warning you." He stepped closer and for the first time in my 38 years, I truly believed my brother might kill me. "You're sending your own brother back to prison? After everything I've been through." Everything he'd been through. As if his choices were somehow my responsibility. As if his 3-year prison sentence for assault wasn't earned. 911, what's your emergency? The operator's voice was calm, professional, everything I wasn't in that moment. "My brother. He threw boiling soup on me. I'm burned. I need help." Each word felt like swallowing glass. Lester lunged for the phone, but I rolled away, crying out as my burned shoulder hit the hardwood floor. "Ma'am, are you in immediate danger?" "Yes. He's trying to take my phone. Please send someone." I could hear Lester pacing, muttering to himself. "You stupid bitch. You just ruined everything. Everything." The operator kept me on the line, asking questions that seemed endless. "What's your address? Is he still in the house? Are you able to lock yourself in a room?" I couldn't move. The burns covered my left shoulder, part of my chest, and my forearm where I'd tried to shield myself. My beautiful skin, the color of warm mahogany Daddy used to say, now looked like melted wax. "Cassidy, listen to me." Lester's voice changed again, syrupy with false gentleness. I panicked. "Okay? We can fix this. Just tell them it was an accident. You slipped, the pot fell. I'll take you to the hospital myself." He actually thought I was that stupid. That I'd protect him one more time like I'd been doing since we were kids. Like when he stole from Mama's purse and I said I'd borrowed it. Like when he crashed Daddy's car and I said I was driving. The sirens cut through his begging. Blue and red lights flashed through my front windows, painting Lester's terrified face in alternating colors. "Please, Cassidy. They'll send me back. I can't go back there." He dropped to his knees, hands clasped like he was praying. But I was done being his savior. The paramedics came first, their faces registering shock at the extent of my injuries. Second-degree burns, possibly third in some areas, one said into his radio. They wrapped me in something cool, explaining every movement before they touched me. Careful. Everything Lester wasn't. The police officers appeared next. Two of them, a woman with kind eyes and a man who looked at Lester with immediate suspicion. Sir, step away from her. Lester raised his hands, that false innocence he'd perfected. Officers, there's been a terrible accident. My sister was cooking and the pot slipped. I was trying to help her. That's not what happened, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. He grabbed the pot and threw it on me because I wouldn't sign over my house. The female officer knelt beside me. Ma'am, we're going to need a full statement, but first, let's get you medical attention. She looked at Lester. Sir, what's your name? I watched his face fall as he realized there was no escape. Lester Deshawn Wilson. The male officer's hand moved to his radio. Wilson, you're on probation, aren't you? In the ambulance, as they started in for and administered pain medication, I finally let myself fall apart. The paramedic, a woman named Lisa with gentle hands and softer eyes, held tissues to my face while I sobbed. You did the right thing, she whispered. Whatever's happening, you did the right thing calling for help. But had I? Lester was my brother. We shared everything. A childhood bedroom, measles, the trauma of losing Daddy at 15. How could I be the one who sent him back to prison? Sweetheart, I've been doing this 20 years, Lisa said, seeming to read my thoughts. Family doesn't give you the right to harm someone. Not ever. At the hospital they admitted me immediately. The burns were worse than I'd thought. Second and third degree, covering 18% of my body. You're lucky, the doctor said, which seemed absurd until he explained. 6 inches higher and you'd have burns on your face and neck. You could have died from the shock. Could have died. Lester could have killed me over a house. The detective who came to take my statement was the woman from my house, Officer Brielle Williams. She pulled up a chair, her expression serious but compassionate. Ms. Wilson, I need you to walk me through exactly what happened. Take your time. So I did. Every word felt like a betrayal and a liberation simultaneously. I told her about Lester's prison sentence for assault 3 years ago. About his release 6 months ago. About the constant calls demanding money. He showed up at my job twice last month. I continued, the morphine making everything slightly hazy but the memories sharp as broken glass. Security had to escort him out. He was screaming that I owed him, that this house should be his too. Officer Williams wrote everything down. Did he say why he believed he had a right to your property? I laughed, bitter and painful. Because Mama promised him. Because when our parents died 7 years ago, the house was supposed to be split between us. But Lester was in prison then, and the will specifically stated it would go to whichever child was living there. I'd been taking care of our parents for years. Mama had dementia, Daddy had cancer before his heart gave out. I quit my corporate job to become their caregiver while Lester was serving his sentence for beating up his girlfriend. So legally the house is yours alone? Completely. I have all the documents. I even sold that house and bought this one with the proceeds, added my own savings. This is mine. Every square inch of it cost me something. Time, money, tears, years of my life I can't get back. Officer Williams nodded slowly. Ms. Wilson, I need to tell you something. This wasn't Lester's first probation violation. He was cited 3 weeks ago for contact with a previous assault victim. His probation officer was already preparing to file for revocation. My heart stopped. He knew. He knew he was going back anyway, so he figured he'd get what he wanted before the system caught up with him. Yes, that's what it looks like. They kept me in the hospital for 4 days. The burns required debridement. They literally had to cut away dead skin, and infection was a constant concern. Mama's sister, Aunt Carol, was the first family member to visit. She swept in with her church hat still on, took one look at my bandaged shoulder and burst into tears. Baby girl, I am so sorry. So sorry. She pulled a chair close, her perfume overwhelming but comforting. I should have said something years ago about that boy. Should have stood up to your mama. What do you mean? My voice was hoarse from screaming during wound care. Aunt Carol's face crumpled. Your mama always favored Lester. You know that, I know that, the whole family knew it. Every time he messed up, she'd make excuses. He's had it hard, she'd say. He's sensitive. Meanwhile, you were working yourself to the bone taking care of them both, and did you get any recognition? Any thanks? I'd never heard her speak this way. Aunt Carol was usually the peacekeeper, the one who smoothed everything over. When Lester went to prison that first time, your mama cried to everyone about her poor baby boy. Never once asked how that girl he beat up was doing. Never once acknowledged that her son was exactly where he needed to be. She reached for my good hand. I'm telling you this because you need to hear it. You don't owe him anything. Not your house, not your forgiveness, not your protection. He made his choices. The probation revocation hearing happened while I was still in the hospital. Officer Williams came to tell me herself, bringing photos she thought I should see. These are from your kitchen. I stared at images of soup splattered on the walls, my blood mixed with broth on the floor, the dented pot. Your brother's public defender tried to argue it was an accident, that the pot slipped. She pulled out another photo. But the trajectory analysis proves he threw it with force. The pot traveled 8 feet through the air. That's not slipping. That's assault with intent. Lester's probation was revoked immediately. The assault on me added another charge, aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury. With his prior conviction and this new offense, the prosecution was recommending 10 years. 10 years. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I felt hollowed out. The judge wants to know if you'll be providing a victim impact statement at sentencing, Officer Williams said gently. You don't have to. Your medical records speak for themselves. But I knew I'd do it. Not for vengeance, but because I needed to say out loud what this had cost me. 2 days later, they discharged me with prescriptions for pain medication, antibiotics, and twice daily wound care. My neighbor, Mrs. Anderson, picked me up. She'd been watering my plants, collecting my mail, treating my house like a crime scene needed loving care. Your Aunt Carol came by yesterday, she said as we drove. She cleaned everything. You wouldn't even know what happened in there. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, wood-paneled and fluorescent lit, smelling of old paper and floor polish. I sat in the front row, my arm in a sling to immobilize my shoulder. Lester was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, shackles clanking. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. Our eyes met and I saw him mouth, "Please." Please what? Please lie for him? Please minimize what he did? Please sacrifice myself one more time? The judge, a black woman in her 50s with silver streaks in her hair, reviewed the case file. Mr. Wilson, you were given a second chance. You violated that chance in the most egregious way possible, by assaulting a family member in her own home. Lester's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client deeply regrets. I'm not interested in his regrets, the judge cut in. I'm interested in his actions. Ms. Wilson, would you like to speak? I stood, every eye in the courtroom on me. I'd written out a statement, but the paper trembled in my good hand. My brother destroyed my sense of safety. I can't sleep in my own bedroom because that's where I can see the kitchen from. Can't cook soup. I panic when doorbells ring unexpectedly. My voice cracked. But what hurts most is that he never apologized. Never once said he was sorry. Even as the police took him away, he was angry at me for calling them. I looked at Lester directly. You didn't just burn my skin. You burned away every good memory I had of us. Every time I defended you, protected you, loved you, it's all ash now. You chose a house over your sister. You chose violence over conversation. And you know what the worst part is? Tears rolled down my face. I don't even hate you. I'm just tired. I'm so tired of carrying the weight of your choices. Lester received 10 years. The judge made it clear. This wasn't just about probation violation but about a pattern of violence that needed to stop. As they let him out, he turned back once. I didn't look away. I needed him to see that I wasn't broken, just done. Going home that night felt surreal. Aunt Carol had indeed erased all evidence of that Tuesday evening, but the memories remained sharp and cutting. I stood in my kitchen, looking at the new pot she'd bought to replace the one that was now evidence. Could I ever cook here again? Could I ever feel safe? My phone rang constantly those first weeks. Mama's brothers, distant cousins, family friends I hadn't heard from in years. Half of them wanted to tell me I'd done the right thing. The other half couldn't believe I'd sent my own brother to prison. Family is family, Uncle Jerome said during one particularly painful call. You could have handled this differently. He could have not assaulted me, I replied, my voice ice. That was also an option. The physical therapy started 3 weeks after the attack. Learning to move my shoulder without screaming, to raise my arm above 90 degrees, to touch the scarred skin without flinching. My therapist, a tiny Filipino woman named Rosa, was relentlessly positive. You're healing beautifully, she'd say. Most patients with burns this severe take twice as long. But she didn't understand. The physical healing was the easy part. It was my mind that was broken. 4 months after sentencing, I received the first letter. Prison stationery, Lester's handwriting. I almost threw it away unopened, but something made me read it. Cassidy, I know you probably hate me. I hate myself. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, and I finally understand. I was jealous of you my whole life. You were always the good one, the smart one, the one who did everything right. Meanwhile, I kept messing up, kept disappointing everyone. I thought if I could have that house, I could prove I was worth something too. I crumpled the letter. Too little, too late. But the letters kept coming every 2 weeks like clockwork. Some I read, most I didn't. In one, he wrote about his therapy sessions in prison, about confronting his anger issues and sense of entitlement. In another, he admitted that Mama had always told him the house should be his, had filled his head with promises she had no right to make. She loved me, he wrote, but she didn't do me any favors. She never held me accountable, and look where that got us. That letter I kept. Because it was the first time Lester acknowledged his own role in his destruction. My therapist, Dr. Martinez, thought the letters were progress. He's taking responsibility, she said during our weekly session. That's significant growth. Growth doesn't undo what he did, I countered. I know. But it might help you understand that his actions weren't really about you. They were about his own demons. Understanding didn't equal forgiveness. I wasn't ready for that, might never be ready for that. 1 year after the attack, I hosted Thanksgiving at my house. Aunt Carol, Mrs. Anderson, Officer Williams, who'd become a friend, Rosa, my physical therapist, Dr. Martinez, and a few others who'd become my chosen family. As I stirred soup, yes, soup, because I refused to let him take that from me too, I felt their presence like a warm blanket. You've come so far, Aunt Carol said, helping me chop vegetables with her arthritic hands. When I think about where you were a year ago. I was surviving, I finished. Now I'm living. There's a difference. The scars would never fully fade. My shoulder would always bear the marks of that pot's contents. A reminder that love doesn't excuse violence, that family doesn't mean doormat. But I was learning to see them differently, not as evidence of what was done to me but as proof that I survived it. During dinner, Officer Williams raised her glass. To Cassidy, one of the bravest women I know. You called for help when it mattered, you told the truth when it was hard, and you're building a life worth living. Later, after everyone left, I sat in my kitchen in the quiet. Another letter from Lester had arrived that morning. This one said he'd been accepted into a vocational program, that he was learning carpentry. Maybe when I get out I can build things instead of breaking them, he'd written. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to become someone worthy of having a sister like you. I never wrote back to Lester. Not because I couldn't, but because I realized I didn't need to. His redemption wasn't my responsibility. His growth, his change, his future. None of it required my participation or blessing. 2 years after he threw that pot, I sold the house. Too many memories, too much pain soaked into those walls. I bought a smaller place across town, painted every room myself despite the limited range in my left shoulder. Started over. Fresh. The day I signed the closing papers, I felt something release in my chest. That house had been a symbol of everything. My sacrifice for my parents, my brother's jealousy, the physical manifestation of family dysfunction. Letting it go meant letting all of that go too. Lester has 7 years left on his sentence. Sometimes I wonder what will happen when he gets out. Will he show up at my door expecting reconciliation? Will he respect my boundaries? I honestly don't know. But I know this. I will never again sacrifice my safety for someone else's comfort. I will never again excuse violence as passion or protect someone from the consequences they've earned. The scars on my shoulder taught me that some prices are too high to pay even for blood. If you're reading this and seeing yourself in my story, please hear me. You don't owe anyone your pain. Not your parents, not your siblings, not anyone who demands you set yourself on fire to keep them warm. The hardest thing I ever did was call 911 on my own brother. But it was also the moment I chose myself finally after a lifetime of choosing everyone else. And that choice saved my life in more ways than one.